evening, Council of Economic Advisors. Today we're here to talk about the US and Japan automobile trade relations because as of right now, our companies cannot compete with the small cars that Japan is producing. So we should discuss some policies to address this problem while still maintaining my protectionist stance.
Hi, Mr. President. I've come up with some few suggestions and options you could take towards the negotiations with the Japanese on their exports into the U.S. with their automobiles. The option I chose is tariffs on the exporting cars from Japan, because the advantage of it would boost the United States government's profit, and while keeping the Japanese at bay with their profits and their ability to export to our country, and it would shrink the amount of cars they can export and further their development. And the main disadvantage of this policy would be it goes against our policy of free trade, which is what you stood by getting elected into your presidency, which you might be looked down upon, which is the major thing to consider right now. But also there's the subject of the American economy and that we do need jobs, which is very important. And the Japanese may not easily comply with the tariffs because it goes against the policy, and also because they'd have to pay us extra for the tariffs, which they don't want to do, because then they would be muscled into having to raise the cost of their cars and then charging the American people more money to buy those cars. But with keeping that second disadvantage in mind, it would still work out because the Japanese could only raise the prices of their own cars to a point where it would still be affordable to the Americans. If they raised it too high, it would deter the American people from buying the Japanese cars, and the American people would then buy from other possibly Asian countries such as China or Korea, or other European cars for that matter. And also, Japan might not like this option because it would seem unfair to them if they don't have free trade with them, but there's other countries that continue to export their cars free to the U.S. That might piss off the Japanese, but who cares at this point, because it's our economy and we need to sustain it and boost it and create jobs. Okay, thank you.
President, there's some great advantages and disadvantages to some of the other topics we talked about. Well, I'm going to talk about something else on a different tangent. I'm going to talk about public transportation, how that can go around the issue and maybe help us in the long term, because we're not focused on oil like we would be with the other agreements. Some of the disadvantages with this would be the huge cost in building infrastructure as well as maintaining it. I mean, we've also got the problem of where to build, because there's already houses built all over the place, so where we're going to put this infrastructure is going to be a critical problem that we've got to have to deal with. The other problem is that who's going to be building it? Is it going to be private companies, or is it going to be the government? Who's going to have control of the industry? And depending on who has control, depends on who can price it out, who gets to choose how much we're going to spend on everything. The other part is we might not be able to transport to the entire country. It's going to be mostly urbanized areas, or we're going to have to deal with other, like busing or other ways to transport to non-rural areas. Some of the advantages, though, is that it helps in the short term, at least, by creating jobs, because it's going to be a lot of people that have to be hired to build all this. Also, it's going to decrease our dependence on foreign oil, because now we don't have to worry so much about buying from OPEC. We won't have to deal with buying Japanese cars. Also, it's going to put less traffic on roads, which means less collisions. And on that note, people wouldn't actually really need to buy cars as much anymore, so there wouldn't be huge startup costs for people, individuals in general. Less parking troubles, less collisions, less insurance costs. It's just going to be the upfront cost of actually building the infrastructure.
Hello, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to start out by saying that we shouldn't do anything about importing vehicles from Japan and fix the problem at home. How, you may ask? My response is simple: subsidies. Yes, many people disagree with this option because we are going to be giving money to big corporations that do not need the money. It does not sound good, but it will help keep jobs, keep the company stable, and make sure economy does not completely fail. Giving subsidies to automotive companies can help us change the type of cars they produce. We can demand better product and make it more efficient. This will not only help boost auto companies' sales, but bring in more taxes into the government. Another type of subsidies we can do is give tax cuts when people buy domestic vehicles. There can also be some type of rebate for American people as an incentive to buy the domestic product. If we do nothing with the current plan, the government can still keep the tariffs and quotas with Japan. This will allow for U.S. companies to import frames, chassis designed from Japan and incorporate with them with the domestic cars, maybe even creating something better and appealing to the public.
Mr. President, the best option would be to enhance the quality of the products offered to Americans at a better cost than the Japanese auto products. The U.S. government could mandate fuel efficiency, safety standards, and emission standards that would be required on all vehicles brought into the United States. These mandated standards would kick in within 6 months for autos being brought into the U.S. and in 24 months for autos being produced within the U.S. The American auto producers would be given subsidies for research and development into means to increase fuel efficiency, improve safety features, and ways to decrease air pollution. These subsidies will increase employment while improving the quality of life in the United States. While a quota system seems like a quicker fix, it would result in reactionary measures being placed on American products, primarily agriculture, being exported into Japan. The only problem I see with such a policy, Mr. President, is that it might cause Japan to create reactionary laws, which in turn could put a strain on economic and diplomatic relations. If these new standards limited the number of cars allowed in the U.S., it would increase the market for American-produced cars, while putting different standards on American cars and foreign imports. It is unfair and could be rationalized into setting quotas. Also, there is no way to ensure that U.S. automakers would take advantage of the situation and revamp their ways of doing business. The Japanese might build a better car before the U.S. automakers could do so, in which case the 18-month lead given to the big three might not work. The positive that could come out of this policy would that it would ensure the majority of the U.S. vehicle sales would be from U.S. companies. The negatives are that it would put a strain on Japan and U.S. relations and also might cause Japan to create reactionary measures. The quality control seems the most logical of all the solutions proposed so far, in that while it would cost the taxpayers some money, it would boost employment, decrease the U.S. dependency on oil and equality for Americans.
Well, Council of Economic Advisors, after great deliberation, I think that we should impose a tariff on Japan because we're the United States and there's really nothing Japan can do about it anyway.
Go tariffs.
What?
Put your loving hand out, baby. I'm begging.